Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of The Naked Gun. Yes, the legacy sequel to the famed franchise which starred Leslie Nielsen and Priscilla Presley. It was a cornerstone in comedy around that era. And we have ventured back into that well, dipped our toe, if you will, back in that water with this version of The Naked Gun, which stars Liam Neeson as Frank Drebin Jr. Pamela Anderson is in here, Walter Hauser, Danny Huston, and the plot follows the son of Lieutenant Frank Drebin, who must succeed in his father's footsteps to prevent the closure of Police Squad. This film was something I was hoping, wishing, and praying would fire on all cylinders, because we have reached a point in cinema history where comedies aren't what they used to be, to put it plainly. We don't get these off base, just completely silly, off the wall, in some cases offensive comedies that we used to get in theaters. Yeah, we'll probably get them on streaming or whatever the case may be, but nothing in theaters where you can go to the theater, grab your popcorn and your drink and sit down with a community of people and just laugh. We don't get those films like we used to, and I was hoping that we would get it with this revival of The Naked Gun, which is, one of the best in this subgenre of comedy, going back to Airplane and Top Secret and Hot Shots, movies like that, just completely irrelevant movies, stupid for stupid's sake and still enjoyable. I must say, this film does not live up to the original films in this franchise, but I laughed. I laughed a lot in this movie. I was enjoying this movie for the most part. This is not a perfect film by no stretch of the imagination, but it did a decent job in staying on point with the Naked Gun lore, if you will. This film is produced by Seth MacFarlane. If you don't know who he is the man behind American Dad and Family Guy and Ted. Very funny guy. Love his humor, or I should say because as of late I kind of fell off. I used to be a big Family Guy, but as of late I haven't been able to get into it like I used to. I don't know if it's because I'm maturing or something. No, I'm not maturing. I'm still immature in a lot of things. And I love that type of humor, but it kind of fell off for me. But his live action adaptations, I don't know, man. He was, I loved the first Ted. The second Ted, not so much. I like the TV show Ted that came out last year. I enjoyed that, but A Million Ways to Die in the West was not all that good. But I took it for what it was. Him producing this film kind of made sense. If you watched his show, if you watch Family Guy, which is very slapstick, very irrelevant, very offensive and all that good stuff, but in a comedic way, and it fits that tone, and it made sense that he was one of the producers on this film. It's directed by Akiva Schaffer. I believe I'm saying his name right, and he is most notably known for being a part of The Lonely Island. He directed oh my god, what was that film with Andy Samberg, Hot Rod. I think that was his first film. I loved Hot Rod, and Pop Star, Never Stopping. That that film, I thought that was hilarious too. Most recently, he did the Chip and Dale movie. You know, that hybrid live action animation film that was on Disney Plus, I believe. I don't think it was in theaters, but that was a good movie. That came out in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. But he did a good job with that. So I was curious to see if he could pull off the Naked Gun, because his style of humor, judging by the films that he made, didn't really match the Naked Gun of them all. But I must say, he did a good job. He did a pretty decent job directing this film. But I think a lot of people question mark going into this film would be Liam Neeson. Can he carry the torch that Leslie Nielsen just set ablaze? You know, that poured gasoline on the torch that he was carrying. A great Frank Drebin. I don't think anybody could be Frank Drebin outside of Leslie Nielsen. And Liam Neeson had a tall task, and no pun intended, because Liam Neeson is about 7 feet tall, but he had a tall task taking over this role. But I think the movie does a great job of, he's not that Frank Drebin. He's the son of Frank Drebin. And okay, and knowing that going in, you can appreciate it more, because he's not trying to copy Liam Neeson's performance at, well, not Liam Neeson, Leslie Nielsen. Now I get it mixed up; they got the same initials, but Leslie Nielsen's performance as Frank Drebin. And if we're just taking that aside, and this is Liam Neeson's performance, his interpretation of this role, I'm fully on board. Really shocked me on how funny Liam Neeson is. I was really shocked on how funny he is. You know, the deadpan humor. It's not like he's cracking jokes for joke's sake. He did them great. I think he did a good job. Was he as good as Leslie Nielsen? And I don't like comparing performances or characters to legacy characters, but it's the Naked Gun. You really have no choice but to compare here. So if I could compare, no, he is nowhere near Leslie Nielsen. Nowhere near. But I wasn't looking for him to be anything near that man's performance. But he was funny. He was funny in this role. Pamela Anderson, great. I think she was the best thing in the movie, honestly. I really enjoyed Pamela Anderson in this movie. It's shockingly, might I add. I wasn't expecting nothing. I mean, let's not get it twisted here. Let's not get it twisted. Everybody knows that Pamela Anderson is, let me see, how can I put this kindly, limited as an actress. But I think this movie really played to her strengths. She really did a good job in the role that she was playing in this film, similar to what Priscilla Presley did in the original films, you know. But I think Priscilla Presley took it to another level with her. Priscilla Presley was super funny in those original films. And once again, hate to compare, but you can't help but compare. And Pamela Anderson didn't take it to that level, but she was good for what they asked her to do. You know, they really stayed in their lane in reference to Pamela Anderson. As far as the jokes, this was the crazy thing about this movie. As much as I enjoyed it, it really tapered off towards the end. It stopped being as funny. The opening, I would say, 45 minutes of this movie. The first 45 minutes of this movie was hilarious. I was out loud, bursting out laughing to the point where I missed jokes because I was still laughing at the first joke that was going on. The sight gags happening in the background and all this here. All that was great. Perfect in the first 30 to 45 minutes of this movie. And then it kind of tapered off. It went in another direction. And it wasn't quite as funny. It stopped being as funny. And so there was a scene in this film where it was based around this one particular joke, and it just did not land. But they kept trying to make it land. It was like it kept going on and on and on. And look, even if you laughed the first time, it didn't make sense to keep going on and on and on with it. It was just dumb. It was dumb. And I know this is a dumb movie, but come on. some things some things got to you got to know when to say, okay, that's enough right there. Let me give you an example. And I don't know if you could spoil this movie per se, but in case you don't want to know nothing about the movie, this is the spoiler part. And it doesn't affect the end or the outcome or whatever. But two examples. They had a gag that ran throughout the whole movie. Well, two gags that ran throughout the whole movie. One worked perfectly. The other one did not. The one that worked perfectly, in my opinion, was the coffee gag. I think the coffee gag was hilarious because they kept going. But what made it hilarious, they did it in different ways. Every scene was different how they did it the first scene or the previous scene involving the coffee cups. And I'm like, okay, that's funny. But there was the other scene that involves a phone or a cell phone, and they kept doing the same thing over and over and over and over, and it just didn't work. And it felt like you was trying to force a laugh or force comedy there, and that just takes you out the movie, and it took me out of the movie. But for the most part, I enjoyed The Naked Gun. I really did. I wasn't expecting much. I really wasn't. And that's saying something because I'm a huge fan of this franchise. And, I've never felt it was blasphemy to do a revival of this franchise, but I was skeptical. But my skepticism, it was quenched. I don't feel like this was a bad attempt at this revival. I thought this was a really fun time in the theater, funny movie. Does it live up to the legacy? Not really, but it doesn't disrespect the legacy. I think it does do a good job of honoring the original films in the franchise without stepping on top of them. The Naked Gun, which is currently in theaters, starring Liam Neeson, gets a letter grade of a B-. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, the first half of this movie is downright hilarious. It's the funniest stuff I've seen all year. Actually, in a while. There was one joke, I'm not even going to tell it. I was debating on telling it on this review, but I want you to experience it for yourself. Hands down, the funniest joke that I've heard in a film in years, and I'm not even exaggerating. I died laughing. And if you want to know that point, if you go see the movie or if you've seen the movie, it's the scene that involves Frank Drebin at the bar with the bartender, who's played by Cody Rhodes, the WWE wrestler. When they first meet each other, the funniest line I've heard in a movie in forever. I died I cried laughing at the scene. I'm not the scene, but the line. Hilarious. But unfortunately, it didn't keep that energy going throughout the end. But still an acceptable entry in this franchise. I would like to know, do you plan to check out The Naked Gun, or have you checked out The Naked Gun? And I want to know your thoughts on it. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of The Naked Gun. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.